Hey folks, Emil from Koalati here. A few days ago, Copy.ai released their new website built on a Webflow. I saw a tweet about it, and I thought it'd be interesting to go ahead and review the entire website, make a quick audit, and perhaps show you folks what Koalati can do to help you improve your websites. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's go ahead and go to koalati.com. I'm already signed in with my test account right here. And what I'm going to do is create a new project. So this is copy.ai. Domain is copy.ai.com. And it says my project's been created. It looks like I'm just starting the quality control process. We recommend you go through the quality control checklist. So let's go ahead and do that. But before I get started, I'm going to start the recommendations. Just go in there to get it started. So they're going to scan my website and figure out a lot of things I can do to improve. So while this is running, I'm going to go ahead and start on the checklist right here. So a checklist is pretty simple. There's different steps. You go through them. You can go in there to see what it's all about. So every page loads correctly in a reasonable amount of time. This is just a quick check to see that there's no like very apparent loading issues. So we're going to go into other things later, but just looking at the different pages real quick, everything loads pretty much instantaneously. Oh, this is an external page. Probably would have been nice to have some kind of indicator here, but that doesn't really matter for now. So looking at things, everything, this is the app, so it's going to require me to log in. Like, there's no obvious loading issues on any pages at the moment, so I think we can go ahead and say that this is done correctly. I'm going to be moving through tasks pretty quickly just to show you the entire thing, the entire process, but let's go ahead and say this is good. The purpose of the website is immediately clear when opening the web page. Let's go ahead and look at the home page. Say goodbye to the blank page for good. Get a free account today. So there's a few other benefits here. Now this one's pretty hard because I already know what the tool does. Say goodbye to the blank page. I mean, that's a pretty good indicator of what it's going to give. Like, it's going to help you get started on your writing. So I think it's pretty obvious. And then once you go down here, there's an actual video explaining how the project works and everything like that. Let me just load a volume. There we go. It walks you through the product. So I think that's pretty obvious when you get on the website. So the purpose of the website is clear. That's good. Website as a working fav icon. I mean, we can see it right here. It's a Copy.ai web fav icon. That's good. The 404 error page matches your brand and contains links to your website. Let's give this a shot. Page not found. It's pretty simple. It's could be a bit better. There's nothing funky or special here, but it does the job. Page not found. Page you're looking for doesn't exist or has been moved. Go back home. It brings me back to the home page. Nothing fancy. Could be a bit better, but you know, it does a trick. So just like that, the basics for this website are covered. Let's dive into the navigation now. The logo and the header links to the home page. You can see here why you should do this. There's a pretty obvious explanation, which is that it's a long-standing web convention, so users are actually used to this behavior. And if you want to know where we take that from, there's different resources you can look at. Right here, there's an article by the Nielsen Norman Group on the best practices for homepage links. So let's go ahead and check out the website. Here, this does link to the homepage, same on every page. So once again, it works. This is important to test on a few pages, just because sometimes your links could be relative and they could be broken on some pages depending on the depth of the URL. So let's go ahead and here I'm 2 layers down, 2 levels down. Still works. We're good. This is fine. Every link is in the navigation works as intended. We've already looked pretty quickly at these things, but we can also go here. There's a broken link checker, so I can just put in the link, check for, let's go for a single web page this time. BPH, there we go. Check. So this is gonna go ahead and find the different links on this page, and it's gonna tell me which ones are broken and which ones are okay. So it's already gone ahead and scanned 86 URL, so that's pretty much the entire navigation. It's the entire footer here, every link on the page. So let's see what it says. There's a 999 non-standard for LinkedIn. That's okay. LinkedIn does some stuff usually to block bots and stuff like that, so we can actually expect this. Here there's an inline style that's apparently broken, so it's going to be interesting to look at what this is. Perhaps this is just the tool messing up. Let's go ahead and try to figure out what that link is right here. Let's just get the start here. Perhaps we can find it in the source code. See what's happening, or perhaps there's something here. So it looks like it's the video background, or is it? There's a few other places. Yeah, it's the... Interesting. So perhaps it's the source on this video right here, but this seems to be fine. I think the issue here is that the tool doesn't correctly handle parentheses. So if you look at the link at the bottom of the screen right now, it says at the end, it says image space from space iOS space parentheses 2. So I think that's probably the tool not understanding the different thing here, because spaces and parentheses and stuff like that in URLs should usually be encoded. In this case, the browsers can support it. Every major browser is gonna work fine, I think, with this, but if not, we're gonna find it out later. So I think that's fine for now. And then a few 403 forbidden from the application. But if we actually click it, we'll see that it brings you to the login page, so that's fine. So yes, every link in the navigation works as intended. Drop-down menus and mega menus work as intended. Let's go ahead and check it out. Yep, everything works fine here. Say there is none of them in the footer here. And we're mostly looking at the navigation, but perhaps there's something else on the page. No, that's pretty much it. So this is fine as well. The menu button opens the navigation when it is clicked or tapped. Now this is for mobile. There's some indications here about Ember menus and stuff like that. Let's see if we scale this down a bit. Does this open the menu? Yes, it does. There's some weird hover effects right here, but that's probably desktop only. Still, I think I should. This is something I would probably fix. So let's go ahead and record our screen just for a second here. And just like this, so I can hover and show what's happening here. It's a bit weird. It's a clunky navigation for smaller screens or screens with split windows. So we have a GIF of this here that I just recorded. So let's go ahead and in here, I'm going to go ahead and add a comment saying this works. The menu opens correctly, but the submenu behavior is weird on smaller desktop windows. Perhaps submenus should open on click instead of on hover. And then I can go ahead and add my example here from my GIF. It's just uploading real quick. There we go. I can add this as a comment. So now I've got one unresolved comment here that people can look into later when we're done with the QA and we want to go ahead and fix some stuff. The search feature provides appropriate results or suggestions if applicable. Is there a search feature? There's no search for the website. Let's go ahead and see if the blog has something here. All right, so the blog does have some stuff. Let's say there's a thing about TikTok here. So it starts with TikTok results. Everything else contains TikTok in the content, starting with titles and stuff like that. SEO. Oh, and there's even a note you might see incomplete results as the website search is still indexing. So that's good. That's a good thing to add here. So it looks like, let's see, let's try multi-word things here. TikTok for business. How is this going to be handled? Once again, this TikTok for business could be is first, so that's good. If I go for just business, perhaps, there we go. So this is a good thing to point out right here. Many websites have their search engine work on each word individually. So if I wrote TikTok for business, in many cases, the search will look for either TikTok or for or business in the content and the title. And then it's just going to give me a lot of random results that I'm not really interested in. I'm looking for results that include this entire thing as a string, right? So it's an interesting thing to look at the results for both single search query, like single word search query, as well as multiple words or sentences like this, where you want the actual search query to be for the search results to be about the entire query, not just one word. So this is good. Search results work as intended. Let's go ahead and mark this as completed. The search feature indicates clearly when there's no results. Let's go ahead and do, there's probably nothing about quality, or can I do quality right here? There we go. No matching results. That's good. It's an empty state. When there's nothing to be shown, it's important to show that there's nothing to be shown. Otherwise, people can just think it's a bug or something. So in this case, it's fine. And by the way, I wrote quality here, but I could have just gone with anything that doesn't make any sense, and it should result in something right. So let's keep going. I'm going to bring this down just for a second here, so it's going to be easier to keep going. The content now. The content is formatted into easily scannable chunks with short paragraphs, subheadings, lists, stuff like that. There's a quick explanation here on why you want to do this. Long story short, it's easier for people to scan. People have short attention span, so it's easier for them to read and find things they want to read. So let's go ahead and look at the web page, the home page once again. Everything is just a small button. Here we go, a bit of text, headings, small sentences here. Section with small sentences, once again, well divided. Heading, description, heading, description. This is good. This is very good. Once again, different sections are well divided. There's one image. You can clearly see that this is related to this image. Let's go ahead and take a look at the blog, how the blog is structured. This is going to be more long form content, but still you should be able to see like different paragraphs relating to different ideas and different things here, with headings or like separating the different sections and subheadings. So once again, this is very good. I mean, Copy.ai is a writing-based company, so I expect nothing less from them than this good separation of content. Now, ideally, you'd go ahead and take a look at every page, depending on the level of completeness you want to be doing your quality control at. You can sometimes just skip through a few different pages just to see if it's well done, and expect that the people follow the same mindset everywhere else. It depends on the level of trust and the level of trust you have in the people who made the website at this point. If you can trust that concept that's been applied once has been applied to other areas. In this case, I'm just doing a quick overview. This is good. The content for each page starts with the most important piece of information. Once again, pricing starts with the plans and a little bit of an incentive to social incentive here, so that's good. Weekly demos. You get a preview with a video, you get the times of every demos, a link to upcoming events. Spot on. Copy.ai blog, quick description of what the blog is going to do for you. CTA for marketing tools, also good, but still, this is the main chunk. guides you through the blog, gets you to start reading. This is good. Let's just go through a few more here. For blog writers, generate high quality posts in minutes, not days. So that's good. Once again, a little bit of text here. Like every page here is well formatted on that in that sense, where you know what you're getting into right away. So that's good. Every piece of content serves a purpose. There's no filler content. Now this is one where there's always a lot of filler content on many websites. Well, I say always, almost always filler content on lots of websites. Here, once again, Copy.ai is a writing-based company, so I expect nothing terrible from them on this side. I expect just good, clean content. Looks like they've done a good job at simplifying their content to make sure that there's only the essential. They keep it clean, easy to read. This is good. Let's take a look at the blog articles real quick. So, if we look at blog articles, seeing as Copy.ai generates, well, I expect they use their own engine to generate blog articles and stuff, or at least a starting base for them. Sometimes, well, most of the time, AI-based content or AI-generated content is going to be filled with stuff that's not really required. So blog articles and long-form content is where another area where there's going to be a lot of filler you can usually remove. Let's take a look at this. Introduction. Content marketing is a vital part of any successful marketing strategy. No matter what kind of business you're running, a solid content production system can help improve your rankings, increase traffic, drive sales. Consistency and strategy are key. Without a right approach, you won't get results. Telling you about this guide. That's good. No filler there. Or at least none that's really filler, like that's completely useless. If you're reading this, you probably won't understand the fundamental importance of content strategy. Just gonna read through this real quick. So I think this is pretty good. This is an introductory article, I think for SEO, content marketing and stuff. And there's a few myths here. Content production, like it explains different things. It's the long form article with lots of content. But overall, I mean, it's well separated, and each section seems to be fairly like straight to the point. There's a few sentences in there you could probably remove to make it shorter and more straight to the point. But be honest, I think it's a good job has been done here. Like, there's nothing horrendous in here. It's all good content that I'd like to read. So I think even for the blog, they're doing a great job on content here. Next up is the interactive element. Every link on the website works as intended. So here again, we have the broken link checking tool. This is going to be included in the quality later, I think, because this is a great tool, but let's just go ahead and use it again. I'm just going to check the whole website right now. So now this is going to take a long time. But this should allow us to quickly scan every URL on the website just to see that there's nothing like obviously broken. So linking to the wrong page or linking to a broken page, I mean. If this is your website and you're doing your own QA or something like that, or you're doing QA for someone else, you'd want to go ahead and check every link on the website. Ideally, you want to do that manually. The reason for that is that tools like this can find broken links, so links that lead to error pages. It could find links. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Links that link to broken and error pages, but it's not going to tell you if it's the right link. So right here, try the blog content, try digital copy, try e-commerce copy. Like, these could be valid links, but that aren't related to blog content. So let's say I go ahead and let's see here. Let's say pricing right here. This links to prices. This is good. But perhaps there could have been a mistake where for some reason while building the website, they used the wrong link or copied an element, and now pricing links the training. And a tool would not spot that kind of issue. So in this case, I think they've done a pretty good job, but let's go ahead and see. So it looks like there's a few broken pages here. Blog, how to write a resume, improve your content marketing, 20 bottom of the funnel blog post examples. So you see right here, there's a few things that the tool already has figured out for us. These are links to the app, so we're getting 403 as we saw earlier, that's fine. A lot of that is going to be external links where they require a login but you usually want to check these manually just to make sure everything's fine. So right here, this is fine. Most of these are going to be external websites who are actually blocking tools like this from working. But, oh, well, you see actually here we have a 13% increase link, which links to about blank for some reason with nothing else. Let's go ahead and check this out. So 13% increase here, links to nothing. And this is not my ad block getting in the way or anything like that. This is really the link linking to about blank. So this right here in the blog about us generator is a link that should be fixed. Let's look at other things like this. Buy me a coffee, all these things I think are going to be fine. If we go back here, we're going to go ahead and find what these links are from, and you can check out the origin of the link by clicking on the source link text on this tool right here. So let's see. I probably should have gone one at a time. So let's go ahead. Writing your resume. This link right here should be broken. There we go. So that's one thing that Copy.ai could do right here to fix broken links to improve the experience. Because if I'm reading this article and I want to know about writing my resume, I'm going to find nothing. And perhaps it's just a link that's changed. Let's go ahead and check in the blog search. Writing a resume. Do we find anything here? So it looks like perhaps this is this article that's changed, for which the title and article is changed, or perhaps the other article has just been deleted or removed or was planned to be written and has never been written. Either way, these links right here, I'm pretty sure the other ones are pretty similar, are broken and should be fixed. So either fixed or removed, either way is fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this real quick. Let's go ahead and copy. Can I copy just this area? It'd be nice. Well, let's go with this. Let's see what this says. This does. Let's see if this works. I've never actually tried this before. I can just go and learn more and scroll down. Some links are broken. And there we go. I'm just going to paste this in. There was another one at the bottom in my tool here. I'm just going to go ahead and get it. About blank, 13% increase. Let's just scroll down to the bottom. Paste this here as well. The formatting is going to be a bit weird because I copied a table and, with not all of the rows and table and stuff, but you still get the point. So this is something that has to be fixed. Audio and video players do not start automatically on page load. We've seen this before on the website. Sometimes you open a website and then there's a video like this that starts with sound and everything, and YouTube player is embedded and just autoplays. You don't want that. In most cases, you don't want that. This is fine. This is a video. If we look at the source, this is an actual video, but there's no sound, and it's only a video because videos are usually smaller file size wise than GIFs. So in this case, they're using a video, very short video, instead of using a GIF, and then they're making you click it to actually see the video. And in this area, it would be fine if it autoplayed. I would actually prefer if it autoplayed, but still, it's at this point, there's no clear standard, I don't think, on what's good and what's bad. This is good. It works. I like it. And we've seen this across the website, so I think we can check this. In-page tabs work as intended. So I haven't seen any in-page tabs yet on the website, so let's go ahead and browse real quick, see if there's anything we can find. Contact us, perhaps there's different tabs. Oh, well, actually here we're going to see different accordions. So these are working fine. It looks like we're good. This is fine. Is there any tab? Report an outage. This is going to be a different website. Same for this. Same for this. Weekly demos, perhaps. Nope, I'm not really seeing any tabs anywhere. Let's take a look at... Oh, wait, what is this? No, these are different pages, so that's fine. And let's see. See here, perhaps it's not tabs, but perhaps it could have some kind of active state here to show that this, like the announcement page here, is what I'm on right now. So some kind of active. So right here we have, I don't know what's going to be styling this, blog link perhaps, where it's also W current, because this is built with Webflow right here, and Webflow automatically adds the W current class on your active link or current links. So just something like making the link black, and ideally the icon would be black as well, but it's perhaps just I don't know, brightness 0 should make everything black in this case. So just having something like this that indicates that this is the link I'm already on, perhaps even disabling the cursor or making this not a link, but in Webflow it's going to be complicated. Something like that I think could be an improvement. But other than that, once again, pretty good. There's no in-page tabs, so this is fine. The accordion is not specifically mentioned in here in the interactive elements, but it's kind of the same idea. The accordion we've seen earlier, we should test those. Any kind of interactive element on the website should be tested to make sure it works correctly on every different device and platform and stuff like that. Carousels and slideshows are working as intended. I haven't seen any of those in the website so far, so I'm just going to go ahead and check yes. Obviously, you'd want to check that manually, but still. Information that only appears on hover is adapted on touch screens. Once again, I haven't seen any of these on the website, but sometimes there's page listings or listings like this where instead of having the title of the article here, it'd be an image, and when you hover on it, you'd see the title. Well, these interactions are kind of broken on touchscreen devices where there's no hover effect. Like if you can click it, but you can't hover it. So in these cases, unless you actually adapt the UI to always display the title and the hover information on the page at all times on smaller devices, well, they're just never going to see that content. So in this case, we're all good. We're kind of powering through this, so let's go ahead and see. The website looks great and works as intended on Google Chrome. This is what I'm using right now. We're fine. This is working as expected. I'm going to skip this for now and do it at the end because I'm not set up for broadcasting different browsers and devices right now. So let's go ahead and go to the design section. Design. The photos and images on each page convey relevant information. There's no stock images anywhere on this website that I've seen. Everything has been purpose-built. There's screenshots, there's mock-ups, there's actual people's face. Good examples of the actual content and the platform. So this is good. The point that this is about is mostly, if we look here, like stock images that are there just to make the website look good, but that don't really add any value, or really, like, there's too many of them, so there's no point there. You can go ahead and read the Nielsen Norman Group article about this, as photos, as web content. Pretty much avoid putting like important content in images without text alternatives. And then obviously avoid just using a ton of stock images for no reason when there's no direct link or no like helpful information on there. Once again, Copy.ai has done a good job here. Clickable elements have a clear visual indicator indicating that they can be clicked. Let's go ahead and see the different elements. This turns teal. I like it. It works. This has a new background, turns teal as well. This is clearly clickable. The logo doesn't, but as we said, this is kind of a convention on every or almost every website that when you click the logo, it's linking to the homepage. I don't think it's super important here to have an hover effect. Perhaps this is the exception, but let's take a look at the buttons here. This is fine. The slight hover effect here. It's not very obvious, but it kind of works. Perhaps I'll make it a bit more obvious on these buttons, but it works. Same here. Buttons probably could be improved on that sense, but it's not a big issue. All of this is good. The we're hiring here has no hover effect. So I think this one I'd like to have a hover effect appear. Perhaps you could just do, I don't know, background. Let's just go ahead and get some kind of teal here. Like perhaps a transition. Whatever. Well, transition is really slow on this one, but really quick. There we go. Something to indicate that it's clickable and it's not just, you know, an additional thing here saying they're hiring. The video, there's a play button. We're used to play button. Perhaps it could be more obvious when you're hovering once again. So if I'm hovering on this thing right here, perhaps the button could go to opacity 1, right? Something like this. With a transition, I don't know. I'm no designer, by the way. I'm just here to point out some things that could potentially be improved. I'll leave the actual designing to the designers. Well, once again, this is a video with a play button. We're used to play buttons. I'm just pointing out the obvious. This is good. There's a slight animation here. I think there's something to be said about. Oh, that's interesting. There's a link within a link here, but I'm gonna go ahead and expect this as a link. Oh, this is kind of a fake link that leads to the same page. That's fair. But still, it's clear that you can click both the thing here because it like kind of moves up and has a shadow that appears. There's a link here. It's clearly clickable. That's good. Here, these are just images. Buttons, once again, we've looked at. This is good. These, they're clearly clickable. There's different color here for a link. It's kind of clear that this is going to be a link. Hover effect could be nice, but it's not absolutely necessary for these. But, you know, once again, could be nice. These, slight translation here, I like. That's good. So overall, I think there's a few minor improvements that could potentially be made, but there's nothing horrible about it. I'm just going to go ahead and take a quick GIF of this just to show these things that could be improved. And same for this, the button here. Like it's not super obvious. I'm going to take one with this here as well with both buttons. Like this, it could be, this one is a bit more obvious. The green one is where the teal one is a bit worse. But overall, still pretty good. And perhaps this one, where there's no hover effect here. So let's just go ahead and add a comment in here. We could say there's a few clickable elements without clear hover effect. I'm going to go ahead and list just add my screenshots here. I'm going to add a few of them. I'm not going to go through everything, I don't think. Oops, sorry. Little technical difficulty here. There we go. Let's go ahead and add another one. Probably could have gone through the image viewer and just picked all the different ones, but you get the idea. And the last one. There we go. I'm going to add this as a comment, so the different elements are here in my comment. And it's appeared as an unresolved comment. So once this is fixed, we can just go ahead and click resolve. The icons used on the website are either standard and immediately recognizable, or are accompanied by a text label. Check marks, pretty standard. Arrow for buttons, pretty standard as well. There's nothing fancy here. Google icon is well recognized. These are well recognized as being drop-down icons as well. So this is pretty much all standard. Play button, all good. Let's take a look at these here. This blog content, it's a text editing thing, so that's good. Digital ad, there's a kind of video player. It's interesting. It works, I guess. It's not the most obvious thing. Like, I feel like some of these icons may have been added just to fit the pattern without really adding any value. But like the cart here is very obvious. People know cart and commerce, e-commerce, stuff like that. Social media, perhaps, yeah, it's kind of working, I guess, or it's a chat. Once again, I think this one is kind of sales copy. It's a label. Once again, not super obvious, but it looks good. And once again, it's not super obvious, but there's a lot of text beside it to indicate like what it's really about. So this is just kind of a design element that catches the eye for those that are most known. So the cart and the blog, perhaps stuff like that. So it works. It fits the pattern that we expect. Either the icon itself is alone and it's very easily recognizable, or it's not so much so easy to recognize, but there's like text beside it indicating what it is. This is good. No icons here. Social media, people know what it is. At least the people who are going to be interested in using these buttons know what it is. Going through a few different pages here just to see. No other like very obvious icons used anywhere else. I'm going to go ahead and say they're doing a great job once again. Visited links are displayed in a different color or style in order to look used. This is a hard one. Most people, most designers especially, don't like these. Now, for navigations and stuff, obviously you don't really want to go with used links. I think it's okay for these like major elements like navigations and footers and stuff like that to not have these. The part where it's really important, and I think the like articles and the description that accompany this task are about and talk about, is content. So if I go in a blog article and there's a link, like this thing right here, I should see that I've visited this before. Just because different articles can link to like previous articles that I've already read, and then I can not notice that I've already read this, and then click on the link once again, end up in a kind of infinite loop of things that I've already read but haven't been noticing that I've read. So an easy fix is just to use the visited thing here. I could go ahead and I'm just gonna make it purple because it's the default one, but it's not looking great here, but you get the idea. This is especially for long form content and articles and stuff like that, and documentation as well could be a useful one to look at links here. This is horrible. Obviously, you don't want that in your footer, but still, for long form content, it's good. So I'm going to go ahead and say here, visited links in long form articles, long form content like blog articles should appear as visited when they've been previously visited. So let's once again one unresolved comment here. And now we move on to forms. Every form, like the form itself, there's a lot of things to look into here. As you can see, this is pretty much the longest section. There's a lot of stuff that goes into there. Sometimes it'll kind of contradict user experience and conversion, like practices kind of contradict one another, perhaps, from time to time. But in the most scenarios, you probably just want to be asking as little information as possible. Once again, there's asterisks to all of these. So if you're actually trying to not get everyone to sign up, like to fill the form. So perhaps you want to filter out some people beforehand, like filter out people who aren't really that interested. In that case, you can go ahead and make that form a little longer, add some fields for information that people don't necessarily have on hand very easily, and they have to look up and stuff like that. But most of the time you want to keep it as simple as possible. So let's go ahead and take a look at the contact us page. Name, email, like content. That's good. What happens here? This is required. Let's go ahead and add my name. This is required. I'm going to go ahead and add my email. Message, this is required. So in this case, everything is required. That's good. It's a very short form, but it gets all the information it needs. I don't think there's too many other forms. Report a bug and stuff like that are on different platforms. This is a type form, so there's, well, you can see right here, there's very little. There's just a bug description and an email. So that's, once again, very short, straight to the point. That's good. If people like experience the bug and they're like kind enough to go ahead and find the link to report it and actually report it, you want to make sure that you don't get in their way. So keeping the form as small as possible, like what they've done here, is pretty good. It's exactly what you want. Same here, side down, email, like a bit of information about what you're using, nothing crazy. And I'm sure none of these are, well, very few of these are actually required fields, just so you can submit partial forms. I think this is pretty good. Request a new feature. This is a type form once again. This is one where you might be fine with adding more fields here and making more stuff required, because you don't want people who aren't using your platform to request feature, or people who aren't like going to use your platform even if you add this feature, you know. So you probably want to filter kind of who's filling up the form by adding more stuff. But once again, this is it's doing a good job once again. So let's go ahead and see if there's anything else. I don't think there's any other obvious form. So let's go ahead and say that's good. Forms are presented in a single column. I think we've seen that before. The main thing here is, I don't know if there's going to be examples in this article. So single column forms are usually easier to fill. There's no examples of multiple rows, but multiple columns. But you know, sometimes there's different columns where the fields aren't like they're one next to another, aren't really related. And that's kind of confusing. It's harder to scan for people. So that's all there is to it. Required fields are marked as such in every form. Marking form fields as required by using an asterisk or require label helps people understand, prevents frustration when you submit a form and it says, you know, you got to fill all these forms. This is something the contact form here could have done. There's two different mindsets on these. So some people prefer to have like no asterisks and then add the label optional for optional fields. So let's say my email here was optional. I could have had like an optional label next to it. So everything else is required. Perhaps this should have been like a different font or a different weight or color, something like that, but you get the idea. But in this case, everything is required. I think I would still add asterisks to indicate this is required, this is required, this is required, because your type forms use that logic. So this is not required, this is not required. Let's look at, or at least I would keep it consistent, right? So here, I remember seeing an asterisk in some of these questions. Must be the feature one. There we go. This one uses an asterisk, to tell you that this field is required. So either go with asterisks for required fields everywhere, or go for optional labels for optional fields everywhere, but don't mix it up. At least like as far as your control goes. So if it's on an external platform where you can't control how the form is displayed, yeah, tough luck. But for everything you actually do control, I would recommend going with a consistent approach. So in this case, has either asterisk or optional labels. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a comment here. Make the optional / required indicators consistent across the different forms. So report bug, outage, ask feature, contact form, etc. So there's a bit of work to be done here to make it ideal, but once again, it's still looking good and it still works, I think. So labels are close to the fields they describe. This is good. Something you'll sometimes see on websites is, let's see, having, there we go, having a larger like margin bottom here, where it's not super clear, like the spacing between these fields is the same as the spacing between these fields. So if you're here, like it's not clear if there weren't the placeholders. It's not super clear like which label is associated to which fields. In this case, they're doing a good job. So let's go ahead and mark this as done. Labels, hints, and instructions are not displayed as placeholders within the fields. So in this case, placeholders are really more adding more information just to make it like friendlier, I guess. And people know what an email is, they know what a name is, they know this is a text box. So in this case, placeholders aren't harming anybody. But usually, placeholders, you want to use fewer and more than, as little as possible, because some people will misinterpret the placeholders as being the values, especially for stuff like this, like enter your name. They're not going to think that that's their name. But if you see this and for some reason the placeholder color is different or something like that, they might think like they've actually filled out this field here, and the name at website.com is the address they entered. So placeholders in this case could probably be removed, but they're not really harming anybody. But I don't know. At this point, it's mostly personal preference and the design preference. Everything here in the checklist is, open to discussion. So personally, I think this is fine. I'm going to go ahead and check it. Related fields are grouped together in longer forms. This is not applicable, so I'm just going to go here because they only have short forms. Each field uses the right type and size for the input. Yeah, that's pretty good. Name is going to be this width. Email is going to be about this width. Content is long as well, so that's good. I think this is fine. Fields with requirements or limitations have their instructions clearly explained under the fields label. This is good. There's nothing special here, so there's no additional requirements to be added. Let's go ahead and mark this as completed. Error messages provide clear indications of what is correct or what is incorrect and how it can be fixed. In this case, the form is relying on the browser's default checks, so that's good. If for some reason your browser did not support the required, or if there was server-side validation, so let's go ahead and remove the required from this, just to give an example. And this is a test form submission for the website audit. Please don't take this message into account. Please don't mind this message. Ignore. There we go. So let's see what happens here. Well, in this case, there's no server-side validation. So my browser could have just not had the information or the validation, and it would have been submitted. That's okay for contact form. If you have more complex form, you're probably gonna want to have server-side validation on your stuff. In this case, it's Webflow. I know how Webflow kind of handles things behind the scenes. We're good. So I kind of like to see what an error message would be, but let's go ahead and see. I know how Webflow works, so I can kind of get it to show. See here, in this case, it's pretty simple. There's no validation, so there's nothing that can go wrong, but it says there's something wrong with the form. In this case, it's a Webflow form. There's nothing special going on behind the scenes, so that's pretty much as accurate as you can get. So let's go ahead and say this is fine. For other websites and more complex forms, you want to have more like specific errors. So if my email was incorrect, you'd probably want to have an error message by the email field that says, hey, this email is incorrect for XYZ, so perhaps the domain is not allowed or something like that. Error messages in the forms are placed right next to the field containing the error. Here, as we said, this is a Webflow form. It's kind of limited on server-side validation, and in this case, it's the only form, and there's no client-side validation, so there's nothing here to be done. I'm going to mark it as checked. Perhaps some client-side validation could be added, but it's not a big deal in this case for this very simple form. Forms display or redirect to a success message when they're submitted. We saw this before. I submitted the form, and then let me just see right here. This disappeared, and we saw like kind of this message here saying your submission has been received. That's good. That's a confirmation that my form has been submitted. The form is hidden, so I'm not like mistakenly sending it twice. This is exactly what we're looking for. Form submissions trigger some sort of communication to the person responsible for the website or the form. In this case, there's no way for me to test this. Ideally, to do the whole quality control thing, I would have access to either Webflow or to the person who's going to be receiving the emails. So I could ask them if they've received the email that the contact form sent, or I could go and check at the Webflow backend to see if the form has been received. In this case, I don't have access. I'm just going to leave this here. I could even add a comment here. I don't have access to check this. Just to remember, we have one thing to check later. So for social, we're going to go ahead and move quickly through these. Every page has an OG image meta tag with an image that represents the page and article. It also has the checklists for titles, descriptions, URL. So let's go ahead and check these out. Now you could go ahead and check the inspector here. Go for meta property OG title, and then you'd find this. But I have a Chrome extension, detailed SEO extension right here. You just click it, it shows you everything. The Moz bar does something similar as well. Different extensions exist, so let's go ahead and check it out. So title, description, and all of that stuff is going to be in the first page right here. Let's go ahead and check out the social here. So we have the OG equivalent of these. We have a Twitter card here, which is good. And we have an OG image as expected. Did not expect anything else from them. That's perfect. So this is looking pretty good. We can take a look at different pages. There should be different titles, different descriptions. And the image, I would assume, is pretty much the same everywhere, except I guess it's probably different in blog articles. So let's go ahead and check out a blog article right here. This is good. This is good. And then finally, we get the image right here, which I expect is the article's image. There we go. So that is all working as expected. Once again, you want to go ahead and check out every page here, or every type of page at least. One thing I did notice is that the URL here there's no canonical URL. So if I go ahead and add a query parameter, let it reload, and then my URL here is now this. And my OG URL doesn't appear because it's not set, but it would appear if I shared it on the debugger. It would keep its query parameters. Let's take a look at it. And there we go. It's going to keep this tag right here in the link that's shared and in the link that is indexed. So there's a possibility of having the same page indexed under different URLs, which is bad. So yeah, you really want to go ahead and add canonical URLs for your pages. If you're using Webflow, I think there's an easy way to do it where you can just specify the base address for your website and it'll generate the canonicals for you. Otherwise, you can always add them manually. It's just a meta tag you can, or a link tag you can add manually. So let's go ahead and add this here. As you can see, I had to redo this part of the video, so I actually already have a comment. I'm just going to go ahead and copy paste this. And there we go. We have it here. Other than that, all of that stuff is looking pretty good. And this I'm going to leave as is. Now the website's footer contains links to the brand's main social media accounts. If we go down there, we have Twitter. Let's check it out. This is working correctly. LinkedIn, also working correctly. And finally, Facebook, which is, as expected, working correctly. So once again, this is just fine. Now, next up, we have accessibility here. Pages use H1 through H6 headings to organize the structure of their content. Let's go ahead and check it out. Now this is a bit more complicated to check manually. You have to actually either check out in the inspector, perhaps with this the accessibility tool where you can see the different headings, and by hovering you can see what type it is. In this case we have one H1. Perhaps this tells me as well. Headings, there we go. So H1, H2, H2, H2. There's a few things here that are pretty interesting. Not sure, Chris Liu, like the actual author name should be in H2 here. There's probably some stuff to be improved here. Let me just close this, because this is not really a section. I don't know how you want to set this up, but I don't think this should be a heading. Other than that, different sections seem to be pretty well handled. Here we have another issue, more articles. The article names for this sections are actually H2, but they should be H3 because they're under the more articles heading. So let's just go ahead and take a screenshot of this. Go into comments here. I'm going to go ahead and add this. And I'm going to say the more articles, article listing as should use H2. Oops, H2 headings for the article titles. Now I have an example here. Every image that conveys information or context has an alt attribute that describes its content. That's also very important for accessibility. So this allows people with, let's see here. So this allows everyone really to know what an image is about and what information an image conveys. So in this case, blog post from Copy.ai is the image alt. Seeing as there's, I'm not sure about this. I mean, it kind of adds information about what this is. So I kind of like this, but I think instead it should just have like no alt, like an empty alt attribute here to indicate that this is mostly decorative, because all of the information that's on there is also in the title right afterwards, which is the heading and the link and everything. So, oh, and these two aren't linked. So there's actually two links here to the same thing. Oh, well, you see right here, this is an issue we could have spotted earlier if we actually went and tested links manually. So let's go ahead and jump back to content, or interactive elements, sorry. I'm going to add another comment. Well, I'm just going to take a screenshot here. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight just this thing right here. Copy that. And I'm going to go ahead and say the article titles in the more articles listing of blog articles, this is getting a bit ridiculous, but still, are empty anchor links that don't lead to anywhere, to anything or anywhere. And there we go. Now we have two different things to fix in the every link on the website is working as intended. So this was for alt attributes. As I said, I would probably remove the alt attribute from this, and if possible, I think I would use a different tag for this. So instead of being a div, perhaps there's a more semantic element you could use for this. I don't know if article would be good. There's different HTML attributes that probably would provide more meaning to what this is than using a div and then using the alt attribute of the image to say this is a blog post. So let's keep going. Let's see if there's other images. Well, is this an image right here? So this is an image, Alt Copy AI, that is good. And by the way, you can also use the new accessibility tree checker to look for images in here, and you'll see the alt attribute here. So Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, that's good. There's a ton of different tools to check for all of these. Let's go in the navigation or the banner. This is interesting. Oh, there's a link home. It contains an image that's Copy AI as well. This is good. I'm intrigued in seeing these icons right here. This is good. There's icons, but they are ignored because they have an empty alt attribute. Once again, if the image is purely decorative and it doesn't add any context or information, you want to go ahead and put an empty alt attribute to indicate that to screen readers and stuff. So overall, there's some work to be done here. I'm just going to go ahead and say the alt attribute and HTML element for the articles, the more articles listing should probably be revised. Example, use an empty or mark images as decorative, use article for the wrapper element, etc. So that's good. Every decorative image has an empty alt attribute. We've seen a few right now. I'm not going to go through the entire website. In the checklist, we're going to see some more in the recommendations. Let's just say I went through most of them, figured most of them were good. I'm going to say that's good. Every page can be navigated logically and interacted with using only the keyboard. So that's keyboard navigation. So let's say I used my keyboard with tab and shift tab and my arrow keys and my spacebar to navigate the website. I should at all time be able to figure out where my cursor is. This is a bad start. I've clicked tab twice or thrice so far, and I have no idea where my cursor is. I'm pretty sure it's on the use case dropdown, but there should be an outline here, and there isn't. If I press enter, it actually toggles the dropdown, so I know that's what I was on, but there should be an indicator like just showing that this is working as intended. I just press tab again, and I have no idea where I'm at. So going through the menu, dropdowns are kind of broken in that sense. Like even these are just the browser's default outline. And I think in many cases it works okay, but I don't think you should rely on that all of the time. If you can actually build your own outline and pay attention to that kind of stuff, it's going to make a much better experience for users most of the time. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a very generic style. So I'm going to use focus visible, which targets only elements that I've focused using the keyboard and other like navigation tools. So clicking on an element is not going to trigger this selector. I'm going to go ahead and say outline 2 pixel solid. I don't know. What kind of color could I use here? I kind of like this blue, like dark blue here. Perhaps I could use that. And then I can go ahead and add outline offset of, I don't know, 4 pixels, just to give some space. And then let's go ahead and give this another shot. See, we still have an issue here. Why is this? Let's see, the element that's being focused here is this. But the focus visible is not working for some reason. Perhaps if I can focus like this. There we go. The W drop-down toggle focus here removes the outline. So you don't want to remove that and make it like an actual outline that works. Now you probably don't want to use just this generic thing. You want to test what works best for you in your website. But even if we just remove this bad like idea of removing the outline completely, we can just use this and see, well, this kind of works. I know where I'm at. I can press enter. I can tab through. Oh, and we've got the same issue here where these things right here have an outline that's been removed. So let's try this again. Now this is a bit better. There's still some issues with the overflow, but overall, you could absolutely improve this, but it's already a bit better. And now, no matter where I'm at on the website, you can kind of see where, what I'm targeting. This is what the navigation is mostly about, but you also want to check that links work when you target and then press enter, that your forms also work. It's clear that it works. Your accordion here should also work. Right now there's no outline, but I'm pretty sure I'm on it. Oh, I was not. See, that's exactly what happens. Your accordion here cannot be targeted with the keyboard. So there's a few things to add in this thing right here. The let's see, the navigation cannot be used correctly with the keyboard navigation. Drop downs have no outline. Visible outlines. There we go. So that's one comment. And what else did I just say? The accordion in the about page and the contact page. The accordion toggles in the contact us. In the contact us page cannot be targeted, opened with the keyboard navigation. Once again, that's a pretty big issue because if keyboard navigation is my main tool for navigation or my only tool for navigation, unless I use assistive technology to actually see the content on the page, which is probably hidden anyway. Well, it kind of works, so it's not hidden from assistive technology, but still. So yeah, if I'm using navigation, I can't actually see the content for most of that stuff. And that's an issue. So I'm not going to go through everything else, but that's the kind of thing you want to be looking out for. There's probably a few other things to look out for on the website, seeing as this has been kind of left out in very obvious ways for navigation and for this thing right here. You probably want to spend some time on accessibility to make sure that your website is accessible to everyone. And this is not just for people with disabilities, by the way. There's a lot of other use cases like power users. Like I have colleagues and ex-colleagues that use keyboard navigation for pretty much everything. And if they can't navigate on the website correctly with just their keyboard, they're probably going to hate you. So that's something else you could look into. But I mean, people with disabilities, people with, I don't know, there's a lot of different reasons why you should focus on accessibility, because improving accessibility improves your navigation and your website for everyone in general. So there's no bad side other than the time you have to take to do it, but it's always worth it. Next up, SEO. Every page has a title tag and it's optimized for SEO. We've kind of seen this. I'm not an SEO expert. We've seen that pages have descriptions. We've seen the URLs are pretty good. They're short, they're easy to understand. This I'm going to see some more in the recommendations later, but as far as I can see, every page is loading pretty quickly. And then the title we've also seen work correctly. So Let's go ahead and now we have a few things we want to resolve later. If I went back to the overview, it's going to tell me there's 12 unresolved comments. So I probably want to go ahead and keep working on the checklist as it says. But for now, I can't actually fix these things. So I'm going to go ahead and check out the recommendations. The way this works, by the way, and I started it earlier because there's a lot of pages on this website, is that it's gonna like scan your entire website, find every page. Now there's a lot of pages on this website, lots of content, as you can see, and it's then gonna scan every page using different tools, as we can see here, to see what can be improved, either for on-site SEO, responsiveness, loading speed, accessibility, social optimization, like lots of stuff. And it's still running right here, but there's a lot of results to go through here. So once again, accessibility, it's the first thing that comes up here. Background and foreground colors do not have a sufficient contrast ratio. So if I was to click on this, this is taking a bit longer than expected. This is an issue on my end, on the quality, but oh, there we go. Sorry about that. So we can see that labels, some gray text here, has insufficient background. Later on, I'll be adding images in reference to what it looks like on the page, so it's easier to find. But you can see that a lot of these elements have insufficient color contrast for readability here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, for example. Like, can I go on the website on the home page and check for a label? Oops. So get started here, it's free. It's pretty readable. So once again, there's different technologies and different calculations you can use to figure out the contrast of a button or a text or two colors compared to one another. The current ones that are used by most systems aren't as good as what our human eye can see. There's new calculations and formulas are like being brought up, lots of them being tested, that are going to help make these more accurate. In this case, I mean, it says the contrast ratio is 2.24 and it's not super readable. I would argue with that. I would argue that it's pretty readable. You probably want to get this tested with different people who have different visions. So, but yeah, you want to go ahead and check which of these is reasonable, which is less reasonable, and fix them. Let's say, take a look at this right here. Text gray, this is probably not. Let's go ahead and check with this as well. So this is another thing that's not as readable. Perhaps it could be improved. But yeah, there's different things you can take a look at here just to improve your readability. This here is taking the top spot while I was looking at the first one. Eliminate render blocking resources. So this is related to loading speeds. If we look at this here, we're losing, or actually, we're spending a lot of time on requests to load a cookie-bot JavaScript. Now, I don't remember seeing a cookie consent banner on this website. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything. So perhaps this is like detecting that I'm in Canada, so it's not, the regulations are different, they're not as tight as in Europe. So perhaps it's not showing me anything, but you probably, there's probably something you can do here to improve the loading speed by looking at this. We have a great article on this on the website for Koalati. So if I look at the blog here, there's a website there's a thing for ditching the cookie consent banner once and for all. So if you're not using third-party cookies or non-essential cookies, you don't actually have to add the banner. And this is what many other big websites do, by the way. GitHub does the same. So I'd look into this just to save a bit more time here and make the privacy better for users as well. Now, this is a CSS style that Webflow builds. Depending on your platform, not everything that Koalati is going to recommend you can be done. In this case, there's nothing to be done about this. Webflow generates it. You can add some preloading, perhaps. You can make sure you remove every style you don't use, but there's not much you can do about this. It's probably going to be the same for most of your pages in this case. So yeah, I can look at a few of them, but that's pretty much all there is to it. ID attributes on active focusable element are not unique. Well, that's an issue. If there's an ID that's not unique on a page, so let's say take a look at this thing right here, and the page is, I'm just gonna put this here temporarily and get back here. This is the actual ID. Sorry about that. So if I take a look at the inspector, there's multiple things with this same ID. The learn button here has the same ID on both things. That's not supposed to happen. Is this going to cause major issues in this case, in seeing as it's just a link, there's no like JavaScript interactions or no anything related to it? Perhaps it's not a big deal, but still it's good practices to not have multiple identical IDs on your page. That's what identifiers are for. So probably just use a class instead. In this case, it looks like it's probably related to a script or to Webflow, so I'm not sure you can actually fix this, but I'd look into it. Add an alt attribute to all of your image tags to describe their contents. As you can see here, it scanned the entire website. There's many images without an alt attribute, so it's not an empty alt attribute. It's just there's no alt attribute at all. So right here, the Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook links, probably in the footer, I would expect, have no alt attribute. Perhaps the link has a title, but the image itself doesn't have an attribute. So you probably want to go ahead and fix this. And that's why I kind of skipped quickly earlier on in the checklist, because there's a tool to go ahead and scan for all your pages on this kind of thing. I'm just going to look through the rest real quick. Extra headings. If your page has more than one H1 heading, you want to go ahead and fix this. So here the tool is telling me that on the blog page, oh wow, is this every blog article? Not everyone, but many of them have duplicate H1 headings, and you should only have one. So that's something you want to go ahead and look into fixing. iframe and frame elements do not have a title. Once again, this is an accessibility thing, just to indicate what the frame is about. Pre-connect to required origins. We can look here. This is one way to speed up your the loading of scripts that you know you're going to be loading. So it allows the browsers to preload them or pre-connect to the like remote hosts. In this case, it's an analytics thing from TikTok, and here from Cookiebot, Clarity.ms. Same for a few things here. In most scenarios, to be honest, I recommend just removing any analytics that isn't required, but that isn't absolutely required, and just revisiting what kind of analytics needs you really have, and just reducing your analytics usage to as little as you can. So this is going to both improve privacy issues, and it's going to reduce privacy issues, and it's going to increase your loading speeds for many of your pages. So that's one thing you can take a look at. Links without a discernible name. It's probably related to alt attributes, missing alt attributes on images and stuff like that. Once again, either your links should have content or a title attribute, or the image they contain should probably have an alt attribute to describe what they're about. There's different ways to fix this. It says it right here. Take a look at it for every page. Serve images in a next-gen format. Wow, I did not expect this. So there's not too, well, I was about to say there's not too many pages, but there's actually a lot of them. There's very big images on your blog articles. This is an issue. So let's go ahead and, like, I can see all the stats here, and it's telling me like there's potential savings of multiple megabytes per page. That's a lot of space and weight you should probably get rid of. Let's actually look at this one, comparison blog post. So, where are the images? Oh, they're actually still loading. Wow. All right. Let me just remove this. Perhaps it's going to help because I've got other images loading. I don't know. But if I go here in a network, I disable my cache and I refresh, we're going to see how heavy this page is. Perhaps I need to scroll because they're lazy loaded, which is good. But even then, it should still be optimized. Like, take a look at this. I've got a slow internet connection, and all these big images are taking a long time to load here. I have no idea what's happening here, but it's taking forever. It's not even loading. Well, either way, you get the idea. All of these big images should be resized, optimized, and saved in the best possible format. And see, it's going up on the list here because it's finding more as it keeps scanning different pages. So definitely look into resizing and optimizing your images. Webflow can do this for you actually, so probably look into using that. This we've seen before. We've seen this before as well. Reduce initial server response time. In this case, it's Webflow, so there's not much you can do about this. If this was your own server, you could probably look into your server configurations to try and improve this, or your actual backend to see what's slowing down the loading of your requests. Use video format for animated content. Once again, as we said before, sometimes you can have GIFs, but using videos is going to be faster to load. So if I go ahead and take a look at this, there's a GIF somewhere in here. There we go. It's probably this one, I would guess. And apparently this GIF right here, I can load it and see what it is. Yep, this thing right here. It's funny. It's great. Like it spices up your article, but it's 3 megabytes. That's a lot of weight for a small GIF like this. So probably resize, once again, optimize. I don't know if Webflow really allows you to use like short autoplay GIF-like videos in your articles, but either way, there's something to be done here to reduce the size of these things. And then now we fall into like smaller issues, where you can see here we've gone from issues to actually essentials, and then at the end we're going to have optimizations that are really small issues. Here, fix the miscellaneous issues. This is going to be like scanning your website for like spell checking and stuff like that. It's not always 100% accurate, but it's good to look at it just to see if there's anything you can see that's an actual issue here in your content. Perhaps this A and end would be good. With an AI, like this is an actual typo or issue where this should be this. So that's a good thing to find. Same kind of thing here, but the opposite. A newsletter instead of an newsletter. You get the idea. We're probably going to improve this interface later to make it more obvious which issues there's been. Let's keep going. Add an OG image meta tag to your page. So we can actually see here there's different pages without an OG image. So the different tags, different categories, all of these are missing an OG image. Authors as well. Authors is a big one, I think. I don't know if the author pages are designed or if you have an image of the author, but there's something to be done here. Either use the default Copy.ai OG image, or you could do something with the name of the person, or I don't know, something to be done here. Once again, it's missing an OG image. So if I was to copy this, go into the debugger here, Facebook, just to see what it's going to give me, it's probably going to get the image of the first article it finds or the Copy.ai logo. Yeah, there we go. So if I share the author link, it's giving me the OG image of how listicles draw more readers. This doesn't make much sense. So yeah, it's gonna like mislead people on social media and on Twitter, on Slack and stuff like that. So probably want to fix that as well. Capitalization issues on your content, making longer URLs shorter, avoiding serving legacy JavaScript to more modern browsers. Once again, there's a few of these things you can't really do with Webflow. Overall, I think the further we go, we can see here the actual occurrence count is much lower and the issues are less important. So you really want to go ahead and focus on this first and second page where there's like 248 occurrences of this error, 246 of this one, 148 of this. And then once all of that is done, perhaps you can go ahead and take a look at the rest of the issues here, where there's perhaps like a missing Twitter card meta on one page, or like non-efficiently encoded images on 2 pages, missing meta description on 2 pages, stuff like that. And then the further you go, you far once again like get into like smaller optimization issues. All right, so I was about to end this video, and then I realized I was missing one really important part that we skipped over previously, and it is the responsive and browser support category of the checklist. Now, we've checked that the website looks fine on Google Chrome. We haven't done any responsive testing or any browser or device testing. So first thing I'm going to do is just go over to the website, and perhaps let me just open something. Let's see here. Let's open this underneath, and let's go ahead and resize this window, see what it looks like. So breakpoints I really like to look for are right before your classic breakpoints, where the navigation starts, like goes mobile and stuff. Right here we can see like the menu is getting a bit tight here. It was probably designed without the "we're hiring" sign I would expect, because everything is getting kind of like smushed together and falls on different lines. Other than that, like this kind of flows out of the space, but that's not too big a deal. This kind of looks good. Let's go ahead and check out the pricing page. This also looks fine. So I'm kind of just going around on a different type of resolution, different size. Here we can see at this resolution, it's kind of cropped, and that part right here should probably be adapted, because right before the breakpoint and like a bit before that even, it breaks apart, like it becomes weird and all smushed up. So let's go ahead and check out some other areas. Oop, sorry about that. All right, same kind of thing here. Let's go ahead and take a look at these other pages here. Overall, it's looking pretty good for, like, this breakpoint usually breaks a lot of stuff, so from what we've seen so far, it's pretty good. Oh, there we go. Perhaps we spoke too quickly. It looks like this container right here has a forced aspect ratio. Perhaps it's actually an image, right? It's just an image that's in the background. There we go. Probably building something like this in CSS could have helped for scaling, but again, once I understand the fact that it's kind of complicated to build something like that just for good scaling. So figuring out what to do here with the text to prevent it from overflowing like this. Let's see, what could we do to fix this? Perhaps we could remove some of the padding. At the moment we have 50 pixels on both sides. So perhaps we could just go like this, where on smaller devices we like really tune down the padding on this thing. Or perhaps we can just make the image bigger. At the moment this has a width of 100%. Let's say there's a gap between these of 100 pixels, so we've got a bit of space here. Perhaps we can just reduce the gap, or I can increase the, so let's go ahead and reduce the column gap here. Perhaps I can make it a bit smaller, just like that. Let's go for a nice round value. So this way, even on smaller resolutions, this kind of still fits. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as it's still, within the frame and within its boundaries. Everything else here is working just fine. And let's just open up a page article, like an articles page. This also looks fine, no matter the resolution, I think. So this is pretty good. You can also, if you just want to preview quickly in Chrome, you can use the device emulation here to see what it kind of looks like on different resolutions. So this is for an iPad mini. As you can see, we've got the kind of smushing up of the navigation we were talking about before. Same thing probably applies on different, oh, there we go. Here we've got correct navigation size. But yeah, this iPad mini right here is going to give you pretty much the awkward resolution if you're breaking at 991 pixels or something like that, which is a common breakpoint for tablets and stuff. Otherwise, we can check out mobiles like iPhones. This is going to allow you to take a look at the resolution, so you can actually find like width and height based problems. So depending on the size of your viewport. But this emulator right here is not going to give you any browser specific issues or any, device specific issues. So you kind of get an emulation of touch, but it's not really the same as, using iOS Safari or Chrome and Android on something like that. So for other devices, we can actually use a real emulator, or even better, if you have the actual device, like I have an iPhone right here, I could use this for testing. So we're just going to go through really quickly on different browsers right here. So we've tested on Google Chrome. Let's go ahead and check it out on Firefox. Microsoft Edge is going to be pretty much the same as Google Chrome. Same for Opera. The only different ones are going to be on desktop, that is, are going to be Safari and Firefox, because they're using different rendering engines and stuff. Safari is using WebKit. I don't remember the name of Firefox's rendering engine, but either way, this is looking pretty good on Firefox so far. Let's go ahead and take a look at these different things. This is fine. Let's go back up. Perhaps, I know on the contact page we have accordions. Let's go ahead and find this, test this out. This is also working fine. So, you'd usually want to go ahead and check out every page. For the sake of this video, we're going to cut it short. We've done a lot already. So let's just go ahead and quit Firefox, open up Safari, check it out here. So Safari, as we said, is one of the browsers that's that's handled differently than Chrome and most other browsers. And that's one browser that people don't usually test as much. So it's loading very slowly on Safari for some reason. The rendering is like running into lots of issues. I'm not sure if that's my computer or if it's everyone on Safari on the website, but it's looking really weird. Like I can't select anything right now. Everything's kind of broken. Pretty sure this has to be my computer because it's horrible. Let's go ahead and check out just another site to see if other sites do this as well. So I don't think it's my computer, actually. Just other websites are working fine. And if I go back to Copy.ai, it's having a real hard time processing everything. So I would definitely look into this, because this is a major issue. If everyone using Safari is having issues, browsing your site and stuff. So let's go ahead and check out other pages. Perhaps some other pages are less problematic. It may not look like it, but I've actually clicked on a link. Let's go ahead and check out the pricing page, perhaps. Once again, I've clicked, it's just not doing anything. This is really weird. I've never experienced that when testing on Safari. I don't know if the website is using some kind of technology that Safari has a hard time processing, or if it's the fact that I'm recording and that combined with something in the website is making it really problematic, but this is just weird. So everything is kind of freezing up. I'm gonna cut it short, just to make probably try it on your end on Safari, and perhaps you can test it on Browser Stack as well. So I guess I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So Firefox, I'm gonna say that's good. Edge, I don't think I have it on my computer right now. it's probably fine now because it's pretty much the same as Google Chrome. They're both Chromium based. Let's go ahead and test out the iPad now. So iPad, I'm using Browser Stack here because it allows me to to access a real device and see how it actually works. So I'm gonna go for an iPad Pro. Let's go for something like fairly recent, 2020. iPad Pro 12.9 on Safari. Let's see if iOS Safari gives the same issues as we've got on the desktop Safari here. This is going to take a minute to set up compared to Google Chrome's emulator, but as it says right here, you're testing on a real device, so it's really worth it because you're really going to get these browser and device specific issues that you're not going to run into with the emulators. So once again, I don't think that's my computer. I think it's just Safari having a really hard time processing everything in here. I'm actually going to go on my phone right now just to make sure I'm not running into the same issue on my phone on Safari. So Copy.ai. I'm running into pretty much the same issue on my phone. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but as I scroll, like entire blocks of the page go white and then come back. So there's really an issue with your website on Safari. I would really want you to look into this. I think that's going to be an important one. So I'm not going to go ahead and test anymore on iPads or iPhones because like there's something to check here. Browsing on Safari is broken. Let's go ahead and add this here. I'm going to go ahead and do the same for these iPads. iPad mini here. iPhone. There we go. And then we're going to go ahead and test some Android devices. So let's switch browser. Let's go to Android. And I'm going to go ahead and I have no idea what Android browsers are like. So let's just go ahead and try Samsung Internet. Because yes, it is a browser you'll want to be testing. It's a major browser in, not sure if it's Japan or Korea, but one of these is has like a great usage for Samsung Internet. So if I go back here, let's see if that was just a bug or if it's actually broken. Okay, it was just a bug of the browser stack, perhaps, or first loading, I don't know. But it's working fine now. Let's go ahead and browse some more. See how all of that stuff is looking. It's looking pretty good. Once again, if you have a real device, it's going to be easier to test on the real device. One thing I would say is that these bullet points, like the image, I think is associated with, like this image would be with number 3, and this image would be with number 2. But it kind of feels weird to me to have, if that's true, it feels weird to me to have the image over the text, like above the text. And if it's not, like if this is the image for number 1, it feels weird to have them like so close to one another and then so like far apart. I'm pretty sure this is the image for number 2. If that's the case, I don't know. Personally, yeah, I think it would make more sense to have it under, just so you can have the explanation and then the image. So you're not like seeing this image without any context. But perhaps you can look into it and decide what works best for you. Other than that, I mean, I'm not going to go through everything, but that's what you would usually do. Go and check out every single page of the website, or every type of page at least, to make sure everything looks as expected and works as expected. So if I go ahead and browse right here, this is an article. This is working just fine. Now I want to go ahead and check out the contact page because I know on the contact page there's accordions. Once again, it's an interactive feature. I want to see if it works and how it works on mobile. Does it work well? Works good. Perfect. Last thing, let's go ahead and check the menu here. So we've tested this before on the browser on the desktop and it felt weird. How does it feel now? That's not bad actually. Feels like normal for touch-based navigation. So really the issue with the navigation here is only on desktop. So overall it's pretty good. So let's go ahead and say Android looks good. Everything else, Microsoft Edge, I could also use Browser Stack. I'm not going to do right now. Google Chrome works fine. I'm going to assume Edge works. You usually want to go ahead and test it just to be sure, but for now, I'm just going to say this works. And this is going to be the end of my video. So, if you enjoyed this website audit, please make sure to leave a like or subscribe or whatever. I'm going to be making more of those in the future. If you're interested in trying the platform I'm using right now, it's called Koalati. It's a project I've been working on for years. I would love for you to try it out. There's a free 14-day trial. Let me just go ahead and check the website for you. So there's a free 14-day trial, no credit card required. And even after that ends, you still land on the free plan, which has the checklist and as well as some educational resources. So it's a really nice free plan you can use to like quality control all of your projects. And if you need automated tools, and then you need to have your team members with you to collaborate on stuff, collaborate on the checklist, you can go ahead and check out the more advanced plans. And that's going to be it for me today. Thank you for watching. And congratulations to Copy.ai for the new website. Overall, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, have a great day, folks.